Bonjour again from Accor Arena in Paris. 2 days later, in a much different result for this Indiana Pacers team than in Game 1. It was from a 30-point loss that was a blowout that was kind of embarrassing the way in which they played and ended up losing in that one by big, to a massive 38-point win Saturday evening here in Paris, 136-98, the final in that one. I'm Scott Agness of Fieldhousefiles.com and the Fieldhouse Files podcast. Hopefully you can hear me well and see me well as you see immediately takedown of this arena, Accor Arena. It's from this to what's the next. It was nice and quiet for me here after the last game, but they get right to it, and I cannot blame them as they move on. So we're going to get through this and allow for me to discuss this game briefly before moving on to my written story for fieldhousefiles.com. To start, we wondered what kind of response this Pacers team would have. What was in store for the second of two games here in Paris. The first one, not very good at all. Not a lot of positives, perhaps, outside of Benedict Mathurin's performance out of that first game. Now, this is the second of two games here as part of the NBA Global Games. Ordinarily, there's just one game. So it's the first time in league history where the teams played two regular season games overseas. In the past, it's been just one, or it's been in the preseason like it was for the Pacers over in India back in 2019. So Pacers and Spurs here this weekend, part of some history as well. That first game, it was all about Wemby, and truly all of these games, and this entire week was about Victor Wembanyama, the 21-year-old second-year player who's just phenomenal in what he's already been able to do and what he's already been able to accomplish in just a short time in the NBA. The second game, however, will be remembered for what Haliburton did there in the third quarter. A 16-0 run by himself, 16 unanswered by Tyrese Haliburton. He made a jumper, then four straight threes. I think then another jumper, all in that third quarter as the Pacers saw their lead erased. And in fact, the Spurs took the lead by one there, but briefly, before Haliburton's avalanche there in the third quarter as he scored 18 of his 28 points there in that third quarter. The Pacers went from down by one to up 29 in the middle of that fourth quarter to finish off the Spurs. And really what we saw too was TJ McConnell take over there in that fourth quarter in particular, as he scored 10 of his 12 points in that final frame, really picking up where Haliburton left off. And I thought the interesting thing we heard Haliburton joke around with, we're getting right to it. Haliburton joked around how the only thing that could slow him there in that third quarter was the quarter ending, because then he did not return for the fourth quarter. His services were not needed. The second unit kept it going, and no reason to play him there in the fourth when you're up by 20 plus points, ultimately pushing the lead and then win a 38-point win. I saw a lot of ownership and a lot of the team happy after the game. A very different face and emotions for this team after this one compared to 2 days ago after an embarrassing loss right here at Accor Arena. Now, the Pacers applied early pressure and full court pressure throughout the game, but especially early on, and I thought that set the tone for the way in which this team wanted to attack and erase any kind of doubt that was going on in this game in particular. The depth certainly allows for that, and they were relentless, forcing those turnovers, diving on the loose balls. They used a 15-3 run to close the half and taking a 15-point lead into the break, and then that third quarter after the gap tightened, we saw Haliburton take over. I thought in this one the Spurs were never really comfortable. They never were really able to settle in this one. 24 turnovers tells us that. 24 turnovers leading to 36 points for the Pacers. Again, a much more Pacers-friendly performance as they pressured full court, ran at every opportunity. Did not score any points in transition there in that first game. This one, that was how they scored their first point of the game. It was a Haliburton steal leading to a layup for Andrew Nembhard. I thought that set the tone. Points in transition, points off turnovers, a successful game in this one for the Pacers. I can tell I need to wrap up here as they're really tearing down this place and getting to move on. So just a couple other highlights I'll mention on this trip. I have a ton of stories and things to come, videos as well at fieldhousefiles.com, Fieldhouse Files, YouTube as well. A lot of coverage from a week here in Paris on and off the court. But first I got to highlight is I thought what we saw, the culture just here for basketball, really embracing this NBA Global Games. I don't know how you can't say this was a successful venture for the NBA. 2 games, both sold out, I think within an hour, certainly within the first 24 hours. That meant almost 16,000 fans in Game 1 and in Game 2 leading to this. And so, yep, they're wrapping up here. So a couple other things. Here, I'll just do this from my knees. And so Mathurin also had an interesting time off the floor. I wanted to talk about this in an upcoming story as well. As he was involved in a fashion show that was part of Adidas, and knowing a couple people there, so I know he probably enjoyed that. His mother was out here able to enjoy this trip. A few other bullet points from this trip I wanted to single out. First of all, congratulations to Obi Toppin as he proposed and got engaged, so I was happy for him, certainly. How about Aaron Nesmith quietly playing well in these games and also going over the 20-minute threshold in Game 2? That's notable as he ramps up and continues his ramp up to being more of a regular and rotational player. I thought Pascal Siakam had so much fun with the kids at a special NBA Cares event that I was able to attend a couple days ago. That's something I want to single out, highlight, and post some videos from as well. He speaks French just like Benedict Mathurin, and so he was one of the few players also really able to lean into that and have success, or have fun, I should say, with everybody out there. And then, of course, we know what he does on the court. He's the most stable guy emotionally and production-wise. I like to see James Wiseman as well as Isaiah Jackson, the Achilles guys, unable to play, but they were on this trip and doing better. I like that all 3 two-way players were able to enjoy this trip and be part of it here with the Pacers. Wemby, this was all about him, and I thought the NBA did a nice job highlighting him and really bringing him home and playing in front of his home audience. The first game was a Pacers home game, even though it very much felt like a Spurs game. And then this one on Saturday that I'm recording after was a true Spurs road game. I thought it was important that the Pacers at least split these games. You would think in the United States they'd certainly get at least one, probably win 2. Maybe it cost you 1 coming over here. But I think in all, it was a really good experience by all involved, myself included. I was very impressed with the media contingent, I want to point out there. When Wemby was in there, the room was standing room only, was packed. For other players as well, the translation, I was impressed by what Mathurin and what Siakam were able to do, bouncing from language to language. But it was a major 38-point win by the Pacers today. I will wrap up here so they can continue cleaning on. Full coverage at fieldhousefiles.com, my YouTube page, and the Fieldhouse Files podcast. I appreciate all the subscribers and your support helping to bring me here and continuing on with my coverage at fieldhousefiles.com. I got another day here in Paris, so I have a lot more coverage to come, plus some expiration. I'm Scott Agness for fieldhousefiles.com. Hopes everyone's doing well back in the United States.
We played a lot better, and we needed to do a lot of things better. We obviously needed to do a better job on Victor. I thought Myles Turner played a great game today and just did a lot of things that you don't see 6'11" centers in this league doing. Picking up full court, sprinting from end to end, busting over screens, busting over pick and roll screens when he's guarding a guy who's 7'4", handling, just very unique situation. So Myles played a tremendous game. And, Haliburton's run at the end of the third quarter, they're gonna talk about Victor after these 2 games, but they're gonna remember that run here in Paris. That really shifted the momentum back in our favor. Well, we had a period in the third quarter where we had bad energy. We just weren't playing with enough force, with enough enthusiasm. We were not playing tough enough. And then we had the play where there was the technical foul on Mathurin, and that really shifted the momentum back to them. And then we were able to get it back with Tyrese's run at the end of the third. And that was a really big part of the game. And then when our second unit came in the beginning of the fourth, it gave us more energy. Our game is built on a 94-foot commitment to hard play, and unselfish play. And, McConnell had one of his best quarters of the year during that stretch. And we were able to get some traction defensively. Having a 2-game set like this is really revealing because it's just, it's such a different set of circumstances to deal with. And, after the first game, we had a chance to study it and look at it and try to figure out ways to make it harder on him, to be able to bring help when necessary, which is pretty often. And we just had to be at more of a full capacity mode with our energy, and we were. So, but Myles had a lot to do with it. You don't stop that guy. I mean, he still had 20 and 12. I mean, after watching the game in person, not looking at the stats, I would have thought he had a lot less points. He still had 20 points and 12 rebounds. And I don't know what he had for blocks.
One, I think.
He had, he had 1 block. So we did a much better job there. The first game, they blocked 10 of our shots. And so we moved the ball much better. We ran a lot better. And defensively, we played with a defiant attitude today, which you have to do to be successful in the NBA. Well, Tyrese Haliburton and Pascal Siakam are all-stars. Whether they're named to the team or not remains to be seen. But I believe that people around the league recognize that they are all-star players. A lot of people today on national TV are going to see what Tyrese did at the end of the third quarter that changed the game. And that will certainly get attention. And Pascal's been one of the most consistent players all year long. I mean, he's a 20 and 8 guy every single night, and he had a lot of huge plays tonight. So we'll see what happens with All-Star. Regardless of what happens, the fans of Pacer Nation see those guys as superstars. They're superstars on our team. And they're so important because they set a tone for who we are. Like if your star players aren't unselfish and givers by nature, it's always going to be a struggle to try to get guys on board with that. But when guys like Pascal and Tyrese naturally think that way, and I got to include Myles in that too. Myles is one of our top players. It permeates down, and it's very special.
I was just seeing my family, not even trying to get emotional, but everybody, made their job to making this week incredible. And it's, everybody, it means even you guys. So thank you for making it happen. It's a whole system. And all this contributes to making our sport better and making me happy at the end of the day. So thank you.